She was serious. She was business. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. But I really I could appreciate that.
Hey guys, so we asked in our Instagram story anything you guys would like to know about us so that you can get to know us a little better. You guys submitted your questions and we're excited to go through a few of those now.
All right.
Yep.
So, question 1, how did you meet, or how did we meet?
How did we meet? Okay.
Very appropriate question, because I don't think we really ever shared that with a lot of people. So I'll let you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I can start. So how did we meet? Met through a mutual friend. At the time, I personally was looking to invest in property. So I was telling one of my sorority sisters and we were discussing, and she was like, oh my gosh, you have got to meet this guy. He's a realtor in the area and I think he would be great to support you in your search. So.
All right, so rewind. So we met at Auburn. I went to Auburn for my PhD program. While I was working on my PhD though, I was, you know, the young, ambitious guy. I wanted to do everything. So I was thinking to myself, while I'm working on my doctorate, you know, I want to have like maybe a little backup plan or maybe even something else I can do on the side. So what did I do? I went ahead and got a real estate license. And we knew had the same mutual friend that she was sharing about. Shout out Kiari.
Yes.
And so I had business cards, you know, I'm trying to like make connections, give them out to people and whatnot. And so gave one to Kiari, who then eventually shared it.
Yeah, with me. So Khalil actually had his picture on his business card. So when she handed me the business card and I looked down, I was like, oh wow, he's very handsome. So I kind of just sat on it though, because I was just honestly nervous. But then later on that summer, this was 2011, I decided to do what any millennial would do, and I added him as a Facebook friend, right? So that I could at least like get to know him a little better that way. So requested him as a Facebook friend and sent a message just telling him that I'd love to connect at some point to learn more about the market. So. And
mind you, this was, again, Facebook, right? So you don't really expect to get these very sharp and crafty messages on Facebook, but this was the most legit Facebook message that I had ever received. It was like a true letter, like salutation, body, and benediction. So I was kind of taken aback and I was like, whoa, like I really need to write a real message back. So wrote her back. We set up a time to meet in her office during lunch one day. And I made sure I did all my real estate homework that week because, you know, I couldn't go into this meeting with this attractive woman who could be a potential client. You know, it looked like I didn't know what I was doing. So I did my homework.
Yeah, and I mean, but like I said, like I was super focused, but it was interesting as we started talking. I just was able to see a lot of Khalil's personality, which you guys will get to know, or maybe you know already, which is just so warm and compassionate. And I just never really met anyone like him before. So
she was serious. She was business. And I was like, oh, okay, you know. But I could appreciate that, and I made sure that even though, you know, this could be a potential client or whatnot, that I wanted to know about her. So I asked her personal questions. You know, what were her goals, endeavors? What did she want to do in life? And I feel like after that, you know, the rest was history. I proposed the next day and we got married. No,
not at all.
No. We exchanged numbers.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I actually did not get his number, mostly just gave him my contact information so that he could reach out. But then I got a birthday text, which was like a month and a half later, and I was like, who is this? And he's like, it's Khalil. I was like, oh, that's really thoughtful. And then we kind of just grew a friendship from there. It was about a full year where we just got to know each other. That summer you actually came down here to Florida for an internship, and I think that was really where our friendship started to feel a little more.
Started to get towards the 50-yard line. I don't know what you want to go, the red zone, however you want to say.
I mean, we just had a chance to talk, you know, to really have that time where we were talking on the phone, getting to know one another better in that way. And I was just so impressed at his patience, honestly. Like I'd never really been pursued before in my life. in that way that had just such a intentionality, such a care for my character, my worth in that process. And even as a friend, that was just something that I really appreciated. So yeah, so from there it kind of segued in. We didn't really have to ask, like, what are we? We kind of just knew going into fall 2012, yeah, and went from there.
Yeah.
So.
And then the rest was history.
Then the rest is history. Yes, exactly.
Cool. Yep. Good question. All right. Question 2. How do you budget? So how do we budget?
How do we budget? So we set quarterly goals at a baseline that really help us focus in on what our financial targets are for those next 3 months. And then we set up monthly budget meetings at the top of every month to sit down and take a look at where our finances are, what we're projected to have income-wise, where we want to distribute those funds. And that's kind of been a rhythm since before we got married. It was really right after our engagement that we started sitting down together and looking at what could this look like, you know, when our incomes are combined. So
yeah, we did a little mock budgets before we got married. But yeah, since we've been married, you know, we've been using an app called Every Dollar, which I'm sure many of y'all are familiar with, and that's really been helpful for us. We try to just keep track of everything that we spend, everything that we give, everywhere that our money goes, everything we save, whatever it may be. We're keeping track of that in the Every Dollar budget. We try to do that day by day, but you know, if not, we'll at least do it at like the middle part of the month just to catch up. As you know, as Adrian was saying, our goals and our whatever our mission is for that next 3 months really drives how we plan out our financial strategy. And I would say the 3 big areas for us that we really like to focus a lot of our attention on are our areas of giving, areas of saving, and then any debts that we might have.
Yeah, we believe that any of our finances, any of our income that we have is not ours to begin with. We believe that it all belongs to the Lord. So with that, we're just stewards of it here on earth. So we have a high priority on giving. We also have a high priority on savings and being proactive. For those of you guys that aren't aware, we actually are debt-free, everything but the mortgage right now, praise the Lord. So that was a high priority for us, and now we're kind of on that investment side, building up the emergency fund, looking at different funds to put some other monies towards, and then like Khalil said, like other general expenses that we navigate through.
Yeah, and we've also had people ask us, like, you know, is budgeting challenging for us? I would say that, you know, we really haven't had many challenges. I mean, I guess if you were to call someone more of the gas and someone more of the brakes, I would say Adrian would probably be a little more of the gas.
I like nice things.
She likes nice things. She does.
Nothing wrong with
nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm more of the brakes. Like, okay, we really need this. Why are we getting this? Like, you know. But it ends up working out. And I would say both of us are just numbers people by nature. So, you know, thankfully we haven't really had issues when it comes to talking money and just being open about our finances. And you know, I think a lot of it again goes back to stewardship, understanding that first and foremost, you know, everything that we earn is ours together.
Right.
And then from there, you know, how can we steward these resources together in the best possible way?
Right. And I mean, but we understand that that's not necessarily the situation for everyone, right? So when you're talking about how do you budget, and how do you budget if your significant other is not a numbers person and does not enjoy looking at those things, and maybe it brings about anxiety or frustration, right? We still recommend going ahead and putting on time on the calendar, at least an hour once a month, to start to look beneath the hood. Because if you never actually look at where your finances are, you're literally driving blind. So if you haven't already, we'd encourage you to slowly start peeling off that Band-Aid, you know, look at what's under there, and then we'll continue to share content and encouragement for you guys as you step forward in that strategy, because we really want you to achieve those short-term and long-term goals for your household.
All right, shall we get into the last question?
Yes, next question.
All right, next question. And so our last question is about being each other's biggest fans and giving space for one another to chase their dreams. So basically, it's asking, you know, how are we able to be one another's fans while giving each other space to chase maybe individual pursuits?
Yeah.
How
yeah.
do we handle that?
Yeah.
It's a very good question, by the way, and I think it's something that can be a point that creates tension within marriages and within relationships. So I think I'm glad that, someone asked this.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll start off briefly, but I know that you have some great insights to that as well. I think at a foundational level for us, it's important that we're consistently shooting for the same target overall as a household. So when we talk about mission a lot, that's because we know our mission and our purpose as a couple, and that allows us to keep that at the focal point while still growing in the other areas that we desire to. We make sure that we over communicate kind of thoughts that we have. I'm like a walking open book. I'm constantly walking around the house like with ideas and what do you think about this and that, maybe a little too much at times, but I think it helps you see inside my thought process and learn me better, right? It's hard to guess how your spouse wants to be motivated. We have to share, right? They don't just know. You have to be open about, hey, I'm actually thinking about this. What is your feedback? Okay, let's talk about it. What will that look like? How will that affect the family overall? So
yeah, that's really good. And I think to add to that, within this question, we really have to think about the purpose and design of marriage itself.
Right.
And I think that really comes into play. We think of marriage oftentimes as, just walking down the aisle,
Yeah.
or, just having children together or procreating, which again, that's part of the purpose.
Yeah.
Yet within marriage, we're both moving forward together.
Yeah.
In mission together. And, if there are things that we can both look at and do together, then that's awesome. That's amazing. And thankfully, we do have some
Yeah.
things like that are shared desires and shared goals and shared visions. Yet, I think in the context when there are maybe different things that, we are interested in, there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
And if anything, now that we are married, I should be your biggest supporter in those things, and vice versa. Because before we got married, we each had a purpose,
right,
individually. And now that we are together, obviously we have a shared purpose, yet we each have things individually that, maybe the Lord has desire for us to do. And so we each are supposed to lean into whatever that is. Like, what does the Lord call my wife to do? What are some of the areas that she's, really been equipped to serve in? Or, what are some of those desires that she has? And how can I, if anything, push her in the direction to fulfill those things? And then vice versa. And then I think as we have that same mindset that we're here to support one another, it helps us not to just live in each other's shadows.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's a shift in mindset sometimes, especially if there's one spouse that is maybe making more revenue for the family, bringing more income in. It's easy to have the whole family kind of focused on supporting that person and catering to their every need. But as we care for one another, it's no longer just about me, right? We're choosing to step together in unity, just to amplify what you're saying. So as we're choosing that, it is my responsibility to ask inquiring questions, to bring about dreams. Hey, you remember 3 years ago when you brought up this, right? Let's talk about it again, right? Khalil's done an amazing job holding me accountable to things that I've been dreaming about or talking about and still an expectation for. And it's so edifying to be able to encourage one another in that. So
yeah, I like how you talked about, the scenario where, let's say, one spouse is making more than the other.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great example because, we are a team.
yeah.
And so even if my wife, if she makes more money than me, like, we're both winning.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we're both winning.
Yes.
If it doesn't matter, like if she makes twice or 3 times as much as I do, I know that her heart and her mind is about this. This is not like, oh, this is all mine, like this is all me. But understanding that, any win, any victory that one of us has is a victory for the both of us.
Right.
And so I like thinking of it as like being on a sports team. You see the guys on the sideline who are cheering and waving the towel, trying to get the crowd hype, or they're the first ones, to come and, give their teammate a slap on the hand after they come off the court. It doesn't mean that their role is any less.
Yeah.
Their role is just as important. And at the end of the day, they're going to get a ring too when they win the championship. So, you know, understanding that no matter what each of us might be doing in that season, both roles matter, and we're both getting victories for each other.
Right, exactly. And the key point in that is no matter what roles and what season, right? We're constantly evolving. The communication is consistently happening, and the goal is to keep running the race together around and along the way. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to tune in. If you're joining us here on YouTube, welcome. This is the Marriage Inside Out YouTube page. If you have any more questions, by all means, we're an open book. So we want to be a resource to you however we can. So we look forward to staying in touch.